So my friends, welcome to a new crypto update video. Bitcoin at 119,400 US dollars. We are still very, very bullish here on the daily chart, and even yesterday we moved slightly upwards again. At the moment, the chart simply looks more like it's in a sideways or consolidation phase. One thing that has to be said a bit negatively here is that we still haven't had a 4-hour close above 119,500 US dollars. Once again, it was just a small wick to the upside. Let's see if that happens over the course of Monday, although it's also worth mentioning that weekend pumps are almost never good because they tend to get filled again. But much, much more important this week are all the news releases coming out. We have the Fed interest rate decision on Wednesday. We have the Bank of Japan on Thursday morning at 5 o'clock German time. The unemployment rate will be released. There are so many news events coming. So in my opinion, this week will be one of the most difficult weeks and could also be one of the most volatile. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on all of this. Of course, we'll also be looking at the altcoins, the forex markets, and of course the stock markets as well. So make sure to stay tuned until the end. But before we get started, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course feel free to join the free Telegram Talk and Signal group. If you're interested in updates, news and signals, feel free to join. You'll find the link for that for free down in the video description. And if you're still looking for an exchange where you can trade all of this, feel free to sign up with my partner exchange BingX. Right now there are some cool promotions, including a deposit event. Currently, there's 10% cashback on your first deposit for existing users. Additionally, all users, if you're already registered, they can get 500 USDT bonus vouchers when you deposit certain amounts. So there's something for everyone, both new users and of course something for existing users as well. Just take advantage of it. You can use it again for any free trades or spot positions. All right, let's get started. Bitcoin at 119,400 US dollars. As I said, over the weekend or in the past few days, almost nothing has really happened. Last week we had this liquidity swap down here at around 114,600 US dollars. The long zone was just missed at 114,000. That was really my primary scenario, which we've always talked about. Also because over here we still have vector candles, which in my opinion should at least be partially filled. That didn't happen. Bitcoin remains at a very, very high level. No problem at all. We're in the range, and during this time the altcoins are taking advantage of it. But as I said, we really have a very, very challenging week ahead of us. In my opinion, Bitcoin can definitely attack the prices up here again towards 123 to 125,000 US dollars. After that though, I think it will get difficult. Let's take a quick look at the funding rates. They're completely normal. Everything that's red is only slightly red except for Hyperliquid, which is always a bit higher. In my opinion, decentralized exchanges are also always a bit more expensive. Let's take a look at the heat map. It still has room up to about 120,500 US dollars on a 3-day view. And just for the sake of completeness, we can also look at this on the weekly view. There's still quite a bit of liquidation potential to the upside, and of course over the weekend a number of new shorts have been added, as well as longs. To the downside, our target remains here at around 114,000 to about 113,000. That's the long box we just jumped into. Let's move on to the upcoming news. Starting tomorrow, things are really going to get serious from the US. House price index, JOLTS job openings, then in the afternoon at 4 o'clock. Wednesday, in my opinion, is going to be the most exciting day. We have the core PCE rate and we have consumer spending. Then in the evening at 8 o'clock, we have the Federal Reserve's interest rate decision, where at the moment no one expects that we'll get any kind of rate cut. But who knows what might still happen. And then please remember this chart, FED pivot. Could this possibly be the start of a larger correction? We don't know. We'll see when the time comes. Also, the Bank of Japan is coming up. Remember the carry trade 15er 0.5% interest rates at the moment. Those should also rise. You know what happened last year in August. 2 or 3 days later, there was that massive crash. Within 4 days, it dropped by 25%. And as if that weren't enough, there's also the PCE core rate price index. Then we also have initial jobless claims, employment wages, personal spending, and also non-farm payrolls. So this week is really jam-packed with news. Remember to take profits, set stop losses, and everything else. We could probably even reach the zone up here by tomorrow or the day after, but if the numbers turn out to be really bad, I expect the first major correction, and that across the entire market. We've already talked about it. Bitcoin could now experience a small correction wave at first until we possibly get an end-of-year rally. And now we can make a good transition to Ethereum, because there's not much to say about Bitcoin at the moment, I have to admit. So let's move over to Ethereum. Ethereum continues to pump and may have already completed its third wave here and could now shoot up towards wave 5, just like all the other altcoins. All the altcoins have pretty much the same pattern. We've seen a sell-off, a bit stronger with some coins. Aptos, for example, had a really strong sell-off. And then a double bottom. Yesterday, the sideways phase over the weekend, and now we're seeing this pump everywhere. Altcoins are pumping at the moment, and we can also see that reflected a bit in the market cap. We had this recovery that was during the Bitcoin drop. Now the market cap is going down a bit again. Another small altcoin rally season is starting. It's simply still too early to really talk about that. For me, Ethereum basically has targets of $4,500 US. I don't think we should be reaching those just yet, in my opinion. We still have some room here up to the all-time high, and then it gets difficult. It could also be that we turn around just before that, and that's it. So, as I said, getting into any long trades here now doesn't make sense. Wait it out, take profits, especially over the next few days. And as I said, candles like these will simply be revisited sooner or later. That's always been the case. Let's move on to Solana. Yesterday, I mentioned it in the live stream. I'm a bit disappointed with the performance, but again, this is a textbook example. It went down, formed a double bottom, and now we're seeing this rise in the last 4 hours. I already mentioned it last week in the Telegram group that Solana had reached the target zone, the $197. And that's exactly where we ended up. Theoretically, we still have some room in the last upward movement up to 219 to 26. Getting into trades now somehow. Don't do it, take profits, and then wait for a bigger pullback, because FOMO is never good to bring into these kinds of markets right now. Basically, as I said, I'm bullish that we could see new all-time highs here again. And by all-time highs, I at least mean this high right here. And then anywhere between 206 and 225 is still possible here. But now, for that reason, to jump in somewhere just for another 10%, come hell or high water, I just wouldn't recommend it to you. In my opinion, it doesn't make much sense. Let's move on to the traditional markets. What's gold doing? Gold is just completely in the golden pocket here. We talked about this yesterday on the stream. I will definitely be keeping an eye on gold in the coming days. Why? Because if there really is a Fed pivot, I think that's exactly what everyone's waiting for. Then gold could also pump extremely to the upside here. That's why I would never write off gold. You have to keep an eye on gold. And that's exactly what I'll do. For now, I'm staying on the sidelines. If we drop down into this red box around $3,300 to about 3,280, I'll consider even opening a long position here. But for now, I'm still on the sidelines here. Let's quickly move over to the Forex section. Euro to US dollar. Okay, doesn't look bad. Apparently there's a deal between the US and Europe, or rather the EU. It doesn't look bad. Still, even here, I'm going to wait another day or two to see if we might enter a short position again, since our last one was stopped out at stop loss entry. I'm also watching to see how the market reacts to the news that a deal has taken place. And then there will definitely be a signal posted in the Telegram group as well. Alright, now we are moving on to the traditional markets. DAX shows virtually no movement on the 4-hour chart. On the daily chart, it's in a complete sideways phase. Nasdaq all-time high after all-time high. There was a bit more volume coming in. We're at the limit. The Dow Jones hasn't reached its all-time high yet. It's really just barely below it. You can see here, Friday closed just barely below really, just a hair under. I can imagine now that if this week turns out to be really negative, everything could correct. Really everything. If the Dow Jones also reaches its all-time high now, it's tough. Really tough. Would I go short? I think I wouldn't decide that until at the earliest tomorrow, because I still expect today that the days will remain positive for now. Same with the S&P 500. We've just hit a new all-time high. Here, the target ways are actually still is 6,600. That could be difficult. I'll keep an eye on it, but I'll also say very, very clearly, at some point I will go short because in my opinion, the risk is slowly getting a bit higher now. Plus, all the news that's coming out this week, of course, that news could also be good. That's why I wouldn't short the entire market right now. I would probably focus more on Bitcoin and Ethereum for now, maybe even go long on gold as a small hedge in case something major happens. But otherwise, I'm leaning towards short positions for now, though probably not until tomorrow. Like I said, today I'll see what the US markets still have in store for us. Today is actually still a quiet day. Starting tomorrow from 2:30 p.m. onwards, it's going to be one big piece of news after another, step by step, just non-stop. So we really, really have to be extremely careful. And just to add again, like I said, no one, yesterday the site wasn't working during the live stream. No one is actually expecting us to get a rate cut. If Trump somehow managed to convince Powell in any way, the scenario with the Fed pivot could happen and then things could drop at first because that's not priced in well. A 0.25% rate cut is already priced in. At least everyone thinks that at some point a cut will come. So just be careful. Trade with a stop loss. That's absolutely crucial. Today you might want to take advantage of the momentum to maybe pick up a few more altcoin longs, but otherwise I think starting tomorrow I'll be leaning short for now. Let's see what Bitcoin does today. As I said, there's still some room up to 123, 125, but overall the markets are starting to look a bit more corrective to me, and I think it's time. Feel free to share your opinion in the comments below. That's it from my side for now. We'll catch up again on Wednesday. I'll still post an analysis on Crypto Guru, but otherwise, unfortunately, I won't have time tomorrow, but I'll be back the day after tomorrow. And as for streams, they'll definitely be happening this week on Saturday and Sunday. Things are still a bit chaotic for me this week, but next week, everything will be back to normal. All right, thank you so much for watching. As I said, we'll catch up again on Wednesday. Leave a like, subscribe, join the Telegram group, and we'll talk again on Wednesday. Ciao, ciao, and as always, stay crypto.